So that's probably a nice kind of introduction as to why I wanted to do this talk today, is that we need to be talking about the product owner. Because it's one of those roles that it doesn't really get much love in Agile, particularly in New Zealand. It's probably a bit more offshore, but not so much in New Zealand. There's a lot of focus on what it means to be a good Scrum coach, what team behaviours look like. Not really that many people, if any, talking about product ownership, and also product management generally, which is why I was also work with the Product Management Auckland group. So my talk today is to try and give you guys a practical example of what it means to be a product owner, some examples that have worked for me. This all comes with the rider that your mileage may vary. So what is this mysterious beast called a product owner? We need to be talking about it. We need to talk more, because by talking more about it, we'll find out what this mysterious beast actually is. So my background, as Shane mentioned, I started out at Fiserv, where that was a true story, by the way. I remember vividly, my boss at the time came to me, and I had a project manager role, and he came to me and said, "Hey, we're splitting your role into project manager and product owner. Which one would you like to be? I suggest you take the product owner one because you'll probably enjoy it." And I actually had no idea what that was. And neither did my colleagues, who also became product owners at that same time. So collectively, we tried to figure this out. Now, again, your mileage may vary on some of this. So I've been working on products that are reasonably mature, so early mid-maturity cycle, large organisations, so sort of 6 teams at Fiserv. We've got a cross-organisation release train going on at Orion, where we have 6 core teams and then other teams that contribute in. We're building products, so these are products that we build once and sell multiple times, as opposed to services where you're doing a bespoke thing each time for a client. And we have multiple teams working on a single release. So this is what's worked for me in that environment. So what do I do as a product owner? What does this mythical beast actually do? I just sit there and just kind of like regurgitate backlog items. They all kind of magically fall into prioritised order. That goes into a sprint and with the team, and we have a review, and out pops some working code. That's a screenshot of one of our Orion apps for one of our clients in the US. It's easy, right? Just spew out a backlog, prioritise it, done, right, go have a coffee. A lot more to it than that. So the product owner is a peer role. It's a peer role to the team. There's been a lot of discourse recently around the fact that the product owner is kind of this manager or this gatekeeper to the team that just kind of hands work over to the team. But I want to present a little bit of a different spin on it. I view the product owner as being they're the subject matter expert at the why and perhaps some of the what, and maybe a little bit on the how. Your delivery teams are experts at development, at business analysis, at architecture, at testing. But you kind of work together to try and achieve those outcomes, because what we're trying to do is as we heard in the talk this morning from Jeff, was that you're trying to deliver value. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get our teams to deliver the maximum amount of value. I'm helping the teams to understand what is value. The teams are helping me to understand what we can build in order to achieve that value. So we work together. Next, the perennial question of where does the business analyst and where does the product manager fit in with this role? So this is what's worked for me. So I've been working in environments where we have had product managers and we have had analysts and we've had product owners as well. The reality is, though, is that the role it's a bit of a continuum from what I've kind of experienced. So the product manager, they're working on market strategy, pricing, segmentation, all that stuff kind of out the client end. The product owner, you're kind of in the middle. You're trying to figure out, so for these crazy things that the product manager has kind of come up with, do they have the right value? How should they be prioritised? How should they be broken down? Engaging with the team on day-to-day and delivering them. Technical value communication, which is a point that I'll come back to in a moment. And then the role of the analyst. Notice I haven't called it a business analyst there, because what I'm trying to do here is people view that role, business analyst, as I am a business analyst. That's me as a person. So I'm saying that these are roles, not necessarily people. And so the role is that of an analyst, and the things that analyst does, or what's worked in my environment, is that they're doing the detailed analysis. So I'm kind of broad across a product. The analyst is diving deep. I introduce this notion of T-shaped people. So the product manager, the product owner, the analyst are often great examples of T-shaped people. So the idea of a T-shaped person is that you're broad across a number of areas. So taking, for example, a product manager, they've got a bit of experience in sales and marketing, but that's not what they do day to day. They've got some experience with delivery and value determination, but again, they're not doing that day to day. Their deep experience is market strategy, pricing, the stuff I mentioned before. Depending on who the people that you've got, though, is that you may have different depths on those T's. So the product owner, they might be actually heading towards their career path, might be heading towards a product manager, and so actually they're starting to get more experience in clients and markets. The analyst might be new, they might have come from a development role, so maybe they're really awesome at development and testing and still learning about value and prioritization. So how these roles kind of fit together and how they overlap with actual humans in your organisation is going to vary, depending on your product, depending on complexity, depending on the people that you've got in your environment. To address the question of the business analyst specifically, or the analyst specifically, this is a model that's worked for me at Orion, where we have our product owners, who myself, I look after a whole product, and then I have other product owners I work with who look after individual capabilities. They're quite broad across those areas. They haven't got time to dive deep when we're trying to deliver something. We get our analysts to work on diving deep on a specific problem. So they're researching about that problem, researching the business problem that we need to resolve, working with the team when they're going through that delivery cycle on the business how. So there's a technical how and a business how. And so the analyst is working on that business how. And so they have the time to dive deep. And that's kind of a split that sort of worked for us, because as a product owner, you generally never have time to really go in depth. You need some help with that, and that's what's worked for me in terms of the role of the analyst. Key skills of the product owner, the I and the T. So we talked about that T shape. That I was value determination, prioritization, and facilitation. So what are these key skills that a product owner needs to have? So first skill is value. So we've heard a lot about value from Jeff this morning. I was a little bit concerned he was stealing about half my talk there, or rather, again, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here, because he's been around a lot longer than I have. Probably everybody's seen this MVP slide, and I guess we learned this morning about the evil term of MVP, but I want to present a little bit of a different spin on it. So our client comes to us and says, I want a car. Okay, and the traditional approach to doing that is, you'd build them a wheel and the client's not very happy, doesn't do anything for them. Build a chassis, that's not much use to them either. Build a body, still not much use. Build a car, great, I've got my car. Okay, the client is happy, they've got what they asked for. What did they really need? So perhaps if we take the second approach, okay, so they want a car, they come to us a car, and we say to them, hey, how about the skateboard? And so they take that skateboard, and then we watch what they do with that skateboard. So they get on the skateboard, goes up to the train station. Aha! What our client is looking for is a means of transport to get a short distance. Hey, client, how was the skateboard for you? Well, my trip to the train station's uphill, it's not so great, but it's a bit faster than walking. All right, here's a scooter. Okay, that's a little bit better. I'm a bit happier. It's a bit easy to use up hills. But I'd like something more. Okay, how about this bicycle? Great, bicycle's fantastic. That's all I need. I can take my bicycle on the train. So if we're taking the first approach, we would never have learned any of those things. If we take the second approach, we're actually learning what our users are looking for, what our clients are actually looking for. A second example to cite something, so that's very, very abstract. So to cite an example, this is a real story from my time at Fiserv. I was working with one of my teams, was actually a couple of my teams, who we were building an engine that took a mobile binary, ripped it open, stuck some branding into it, closed it back up again, and we had to create about 2,000 of these things. And so we needed an automated process to do it. And so I kind of felt like I was being a good product owner, working with the team and saying, okay, well, I'm not going to tell you guys how we need to do it. We've got some users out there. They're going to expect to work through our control center user interface and click some buttons, and out will pop this binary. And I sort of walked away from that engagement kind of happy that I'd stayed out of the how. I'd been a good product owner, stayed away from the solution space. And the team came back to me a day later and said, so what's the estimate for that? Oh, it's about 8 sprints. 8 sprints, oh my God. When we've been talking with our architects earlier on, they'd given me a high-level estimate of about 3 or 4 sprints. My goodness, it's more than doubled. That's going to cause us problems for trying to deliver when we need to deliver to meet our market need. And so then our Scrum Master of the team kind of sensed my inward panic and sort of said, well, hey, how about we talk to the team about maybe finding some alternative approaches? Do you really need that going through the control center approach? No, actually, I can, we can try a few other things. Okay. So he went away, sat with the team for a while. They came back to me the next day and said, well, rather than actually going through our admin interface, how about if the user just drops their branding package into a directory, there's a file watcher in there is going to see that happen, it'll pick up the binary, munge them together and spit it out the other side. Oh, okay, well, actually, we're still going to get the same result. We're going to get our branded binary out the end, but that sounds like it's going to work. Okay, what's the estimate for that? Oh, it's about 4 or 5 sprints, so still a bit bigger than what we'd thought with our estimate, but much, much smaller. And it still manages to solve our business problem. That was a great lesson to me in thinking about, what's the business problem that we're trying to solve for the user? And then, are we actually solving a business problem? So we've come from a world of features. As Jeff mentioned this morning, you had feature shops, but it's build this feature, build this feature, build this feature, great. Also, and this is something that's true of my organisation in particular, the conversation starts out, we need to solve this, oh my God, shiny tech things! We have a lot of shiny tech within Orion. It's a fantastic, fun place to work, but not all that shiny tech actually solves a problem for our users. And so as we've kind of matured in product ownership and product management there, we've been working a lot on making sure that we can actually measure the impact of what we're going to do, making sure that these shiny tech things are actually going to solve a real business problem. I'm a bit of a Goiko Adject fanboy. That's an example of impact mapping, which is a great tool that I've used for trying to measure out what that impact actually is. If you find yourself having a lot of conversations within your organisation where they sort of go, let's lift this up a level, you haven't yet got to the business problem. Another key aspect around value for a product owner is you're not only the guy on the left, you're not only the business guy who's going to the teams to say, hey, here's the vision, here's the impact that we want to have, let's go away and we want to achieve this vision, we want to build this thing. You're not just communicating that stuff down to the technical side. One of the real key roles of the product owner is to help the team articulate technical value. And so you've got things like architectural evolution, technical debt, technical excellence, quality, and that kind of thing. Often you'll get business stakeholders who won't understand that, and as the product owner, the person who's sort of straddling those two worlds, a key part of your role is to work with the team and try and allow them to communicate that value to the rest of the business so that we can get an equal mix of market value and technical excellence. One of the hard things you have to deal with as a product owner is absolutes. So the security guy will come to you and say, we absolutely have to build this thing or meet this compliance objective or we can't ship. And then you go, okay, cool, that's interesting. And then the architect will come to you and say, no, we absolutely have to solve this piece of technical debt. We've just got to do it. Your product manager's up in your face saying, no, this is the minimum viable product. We can't build anything smaller than this. And it's not on there, but the UX team will come to you and say, we absolutely have to have this piece of UX in there. And so they've all come to you and said, absolutely, I absolutely have to have these things, but we've got limited time, we've got limited resource. A great quote I heard is that the most precious element in the universe is developer time. There is nothing more precious, not gold, not diamonds. And so as a product owner, you're trying to balance up between those absolutes. You're trying to figure out what's the value of those things. Fastest way to upset a security person is to tell them that their security thing is a business requirement. Makes them very unhappy, but it's true. What it is that their security item has some value, which you need to weigh up against the other things that you've also got people up in your face trying to talk about delivering that value. And then once you've actually figured out what the value is, you've got to be able to communicate it. You've got to get everybody on board that this thing has the right value. I've had this term, one of my colleagues, one of the product owners at Orion mentioned this concept of a value team facilitator. The product owner is a value team facilitator. So you've got people who have this notion of value, as I said, security people, architects, product managers. You're trying to facilitate people to arrive at a common understanding of what the value is. You're also trying to answer that so what question. So to the business, when you want to resolve some technical debt, so what? Why do we need to resolve that technical debt? What's significant about it? To the team, okay, we need to build this, we're trying to solve this business problem. So what? Why do our users care about that thing? So as a product owner, you need to be able to communicate that so what, be communicating vision. Another Goiko tool, specification by example, is great for doing this kind of thing. It actually gets people on board with moving away from an abstract notion of value and actually be able to put them in concrete examples. Key lesson that I've learned in my career as a product owner has been test your assumptions. Never assume that within that value team you've had a conversation about value, everybody walks away with the same understanding. Always test that people are actually understanding, we're getting that what we know, that combined view of value. And then we want to try and break it down. We want to create that, not the most crap product, probably that idea of what's the minimum thing that we can use for learning. We want to try and slice it down. Often as a product owner, you're faced with barriers like architecture, compliance, delivery overheads. You're trying to figure out how we can get this thin slice. How can we ship something to market that we can learn from? Requires a bit of creativity and pragmatism, requires fantastic Scrum Masters. If there's one thing I've learned, having an awesome Scrum Master in a team is hugely helpful to a product owner, because you're able to get that tension between the product owner sort of encouraging the team, no, we have to deliver this, and the team challenging them, and the Scrum Master gives them the space to do that. And always be shipping value. You have to be shipping value all the time. I didn't expect to hear this in Jeff's talk this morning, but he kind of focused on this quite a bit, and I want to extend his comments a bit to say, once you've actually thought about the value that you're going to deliver, think about and plan for the metrics you're going to get from it. So we've thought that this thing has value. What was that hypothesis? How can we test that hypothesis with our users? When we ship something, how can we get feedback that our users are actually using it and getting the value that we perceive from it? And then once we get that value, did they get the value we perceived, we learn and iterate and go through that cycle. So another key lesson I've learned is this stuff you have to plan for this stuff. You have to figure out what those metrics are. You've got to plan to actually gather those metrics. Again, another Goiko quote, the value of a metric is proportional to the value of the business decision that can be made from it. There's a corollary to that, and say that the value of a metric is also proportional to the cost of getting that metric. I found that often the best metrics are the hardest ones to gather. There was that curve that Jeff showed this morning about certainty and how do you get to that confidence line. So the second key skill of the product owner is prioritization. So once we've actually figured out what do we value, which one do we do first? One lesson I've learned is that it changes with time. So it's never a completely invariant thing. The prioritization will never be static, but it should be able to be agreed on at any given moment in time. And so again, that is your role as a product owner, as a value team facilitator. You're trying to bring all these different stakeholders together to try and get people to agree that this is the right prioritization. But everybody's going to say, right, I want it now, I want my thing now. And so that's that key facilitation role. You're trying to facilitate between all these different parties about what we value and what we're going to prioritise next. One key thing to keep an eye on, if I was advising any new product owners, is that balance between short-term rewards and long-term velocity. Short-term rewards is often market ROI. We're going to ship this feature, we're going to get paid for it. Long-term velocity is often the non-functional requirements, technical debt, architecture, that kind of thing. Then, once you've got your prioritisation sorted out, make it transparent. This is something that I underestimated initially. There's a couple of photos. The one on the left is our product roadmap. The one on the left is, on the other side rather than my right, is a breakdown of the work going across the teams. And why this is important is that you'll always get that stakeholder who's going to come to you and say, right, we've got this new thing that we need to build, and we need to build it right now. And so you can take them, you can take their thing and go, okay, so where do we want to put that? What do we want to move in order to put that thing in? You're forcing them to make some of those trade-offs that they're otherwise just going to go, they're going to come to you, have a conversation, say, I need to do this now. They're, maybe the CEO or something. They've pulled rank on you, and they're going to walk away thinking that, that you're going to build it for them. But if you bring them into the conversation using these visual kind of tools, you get them to think about the trade-offs. They're not just thinking about the shiny thing that they've got in their hand. Same at the team level as well, is that when a team decides that maybe it needs to bring in a piece of technical debt or something like that, you can also have the conversation with the team. So, hey, that's really looks really, really important, but where does it fit in? Hey, what's your guys' opinion about where it fits in with the breakdown of work across our teams? Now, touch on the facilitation word a few times. There's this perception out there that the product owner is a single ringable neck. You'll hear that, it hasn't been quite so much lately, but a lot of the early discourse around product owners has been the product owner is the single ringable neck for a team. That's definitely not the case. You're a facilitator. You're trying to get people to arrive at a common decision, commonly held decision. You're not making those decisions for them. You're not there to be blamed. You're not there as a gatekeeper. You're not there as a scapegoat. What you are there is helping the teams, helping all your stakeholders to make quick decisions so that they can get moving. Velocity is what all it's about. Again, Jeff mentioned it this morning. You want to ship something, learn, ship again, learn more. So you don't want to have teams or stakeholders tied up in endless decision making. Sometimes as a product owner you do have to just say, look, we can't agree here, let's do this. Put a straw man out there and move the team forward. So how does this work in the real world? So firstly, how big is the role? How many of these mythical beasts do you need in your organisation? So the rule of thumb I've found is around about one product owner per 2 Scrum teams, where that's a team of people, 6 to 9 people. And my experience is that if you have any more teams than that against a single product owner, you start to lose focus across their backlogs. It can work if they're all working on a common domain. If you've got teams split across different domains, as a product owner, you're going to lose your mind very quickly. You're not going to do justice to the role. But of course, a lot of organisations have more than 2 teams. So I've worked with, as I said, 6 teams, 8 teams. We had 10 teams across our business in Fiserv. How do you scale the roles? This is a model that's worked for us. So at Orion, my title is Solution Product Owner. I'm the product owner for the whole solution that we ship to the clients. And then I have colleagues who look after individual capabilities, and they work with the teams who are delivering those capabilities. And so this enables you as a product owner to not lose your mind, basically. You need to be broad enough to have your product under control, but also be in touch with your delivery teams. And this is a model that's worked for me. It's also kind of loosely based on the Spotify model, where they talk about a chief product owner and component product owners. A few anti-patterns that I've come across. So the first one, I sort of mentioned it just then, is a time-poor product owner. So a product owner, you're spread across too many teams, or you have a day job. So perhaps you've decided that actually we don't need a dedicated product owner. We've got one human who can do that product manager and product owner role. If you can't do all those things around value determination, prioritization, facilitation, bringing teams to decisions, if you don't have time to expend on that, you're not going to get the best out of your teams. And so a time-poor product owner really is an anti-pattern. Product owner not co-located with the team. This is something that can be overcome. There's a lot of technology out there, video conferencing, daily calls, all that kind of stuff. But I personally found that if you're not in touch with your stakeholders, if you're not in touch with your teams on a day-to-day basis, you're going to struggle. In Orion, we have some non-co-located product owners, and they do struggle a bit with trying to keep in good touch with their teams, making sure that the teams are actually delivering the value that they expect to, or working with stakeholders to actually understand the value that they're getting from them. My advice in a situation, if a product owner is not co-located, is try and reshuffle things a bit. So the area where the product owner is, they have got local teams, and so local centres of excellence, that kind of thing. Another anti-pattern is where the product owner is not trusted, and that comes in 2 forms. So that can be when they're not trusted by the business. So, as I said, the product owner is trying to get the stakeholders to agree on a common path forward, a common determination of value or prioritisation. If they're constantly getting second-guessed by the business, you're not going to do well. Your teams are going to get disrupted. If your decisions or if your facilitation is constantly getting second-guessed, why bother? You might as well not do it. The other aspect is when they're not trusted by their delivery teams. So you need to be able to do that technical facilitation as well as the business value facilitation. So if your teams trust you, then you're going to be able to work with them a lot better. You're going to get a lot better results. And then the final kind of key anti-pattern is if, as a product owner, you're feeling like you're a cat herder. So sometimes as a product owner or a product manager, you're directly aligned with the market, you're directly aligned with your clients. Sometimes your delivery organisation, not so much. It depends on maybe history or how the organisation has been set up. So as a product owner, you feel like you're constantly trying to marshal the troops, constantly trying to get people together in order to ship the thing that's actually going to have an impact on our user. Then my advice would be actually put a bit of investment into trying to resolve that, because it's a symptom of misalignment between your delivery organisation and your market. So, who should be the product owner? So product owner, random business guy. That can work. It really depends on the random business guy that you get. or girl rather. I should make that gender neutral actually. That's when in an organisation the organisation's gone, oh, we need a product owner. We don't really know what they do. Hey Joe from sales, you know a bit about working with delivery teams. Just come and do some product ownery stuff. If they learn all that stuff that I've been talking about and are awesome at it, it's going to go well. If they're perhaps not so keen on working with the delivery team, they're not so keen on learning the discipline, it's probably not going to pan out so well for you. They won't be effective at determining value. They won't be effective at prioritisation. Product owner is Scrum Master. Bad. Don't do that. The term I use for it is mixing church and state. So as a product owner, you're trying to put a little bit of pressure onto the team to deliver the value that you want. You're trying to exert a bit of pressure on them. You're challenging their assumptions, challenging how they're doing things. And that can be quite confronting to the team. The team needs space to push back on you, otherwise they'll just turn into a yes team. They'll just say, oh yeah, we can do that, we can make that estimate smaller. The team needs a safe space to be able to challenge you. And you're not going to be effective as a product owner if you aren't getting that challenges back. And a great Scrum Master will help do that. If you mix those two roles, if you have the right person, maybe it will work. If somebody who's used to having arguments within their own head, maybe it will work, but generally don't do that. Sort of is kind of related is where the product owner is a team lead or another technical person. Again, depends on the individual, but if as a product owner you have line management's responsibility for the team of people who are doing the delivery, they might not be as ready to challenge you on things. If you're the one who governs their salary or governs their performance review, they might be a little bit less willing to challenge you. So if you're able to create that space, if you're the right person, perhaps it will work, but again, generally, product owner shouldn't be the team lead or the line manager for the team that's doing the delivery. It's okay for them to work within a practice. So within Orion, I have a product owner who reports to me, but I work with her on the practice. So I'm not challenging her on her delivery. It's the teams that are delivering to both of us. Product owner equals business analyst. Again, that can work. It really depends on whether you've got a sufficiently simple domain that you can do that broad and deep thing in that one person. All the domains I've come across have not been that simple. It hasn't worked. So again, generally it can work, very simple domain, very simple market requirements, but I'd advise against it. And of course, product owner equals a product owner. That's given me success in the scenarios, the environments I've worked in. And I thought I'd try and end on a positive note. So why actually be a product owner? Actually, quick show of hands. Are there any product owners in the room? Oh, we got a few. Any people who are thinking about becoming a product owner? One. Tough crowd. It's fantastic. If you want, if you perhaps you've come from a development background and you're looking to make an impact on the world beyond what just you can achieve by the code that you write, it's a fantastic role for doing that kind of thing. If you're passionate about shipping, if you're passionate about actually getting product into the hands of clients, learning from it, determining value, it's the role for you. If you're looking to develop people or business skills, again, it's a fantastic role for that. I personally have come from a technical background. 5 years ago, I just said my personal skills were pretty average. It's a great way and a safe way to learn those skills because you've kind of got a foot in both camps. You've got a foot in the business camp and a foot in the technical camp, and it's a good kind of transition. If you're looking to make career progression into product management, you want to be a product manager, maybe one day a VP of product or a CEO of an organisation, a product-focused organisation, it's a great first step. And then lastly, there's never a dull moment. There's always a new requirement. There's always a new stakeholder passing you about something. There's always a challenge that's come out from your delivery team that they can't quite build things the way that they'd hoped. Never a dull moment. You'll never, ever, ever be bored as a product owner.
Thank you. Folks, thank you very much.